Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be with you here today for my very first Stakeholder Live session here on LinkedIn and on YouTube, by the way. Yes, let me introduce what the idea is here first. The basic idea here is to talk about the ideas that I cover in my book, which of course is called Stakeholder Whispering. And the basic gist of it is I'm going to be talking to people, smart people, interesting people who have great anecdotes to share of their experience doing stakeholder whispering. And so, what's stakeholder whispering? Basic idea is it is dealing with our stakeholders, our bosses, our clients, the people who ask us to do things for them. And as those of us who have been around for a little while realize, a lot of times those requests come in and they sound like a good idea. They sound like the obvious thing to do in whatever context you're working, whether you're doing data analytics or in IT or finance or whatever. But oftentimes we have to do that task again and again and again and again and tweak and iterate, etc., because the initial request probably wasn't really aligned with the actual underlying need. So the tagline for my book is uncover what people need before doing what they ask. So this is about figuring out what people actually need from you before you do it, which is kind of a good idea, I think. So basic idea here is that's what we're going to be talking about. Anecdotes from people's work lives on that topic area, because I wrote a book about it and I had a lot of interesting ideas. I thought that they were, important to talk about. But I know all of my friends and colleagues have probably even more, smarter, better things to add to the conversation. So maybe for version 2 of the book. But anyways, next up, I'm going to introduce my guest for this week's session. Her name is Robin Hunt, and she is a fantastic person, a friend. And so we'll bring her to the stage here. Robin, hello. Thank you very much
Oh,
for joining me.
oh, thanks for having me. I'm always happy to get on a call with you, text with you, email with you. Yeah, and I was
we don't we don't
go
do it
ahead.
often enough.
No, we do not. No, we do not. But we do it. So that's amazing, right? You know,
Yes.
and I saw your post yesterday where someone had received an advance copy of the book, and I was so excited. And even though I had ordered it, and my order was clearly telling me it wasn't delivered, I made my way down to my mailbox hoping that it would be there. And I was disappointed, but I thought, okay, well, I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to do an unboxing video for
Perfect.
Bill. I'm going to start preparing that
Yeah.
today. But
It's
yeah, I'm excited to be here with you and to discuss this topic. It's a little bit different than what I'm normally talking about, but it is an everyday part of my life. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's so I got to say two things. First of all, I know three people who have the book, and before I got my copy, which is kind of funny. And for my audience, let me briefly introduce you to them, and then we're going to jump in to talk about that important topic. So the basic
Perfect.
idea here is Robin and I, we've known each other for a long time. We're both LinkedIn learning instructors. And as I put on the little graphic that I made to promote this session, she is also an author and a data junkie, which I'll let her define. So, Rob, maybe introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, so I'm Robin Hunt. I'm one part of a larger team at Think Data Solutions. We're currently 14 years old, so I'm empowered by an amazing team. And yes, I love to author. I would say I haven't done exactly what you've done here. I write more technical books for certifications with CompTIA and things like that. So I'm excited to read your words, and maybe I don't know, maybe I got a book in me there. We'll see. I
That's great.
do and have spent the last 2 decades of my career trying to help industry and business like adopt tools and software and data practices at a time when those things were weird conversations. And so I've had to learn how to talk to stakeholders about things that seemed odd and who cares anyway for a really long time, which makes the whispering part kind of challenging. But yeah, so that's me. I've built hundreds of pieces of software and warehouses and reports and spreadsheets and workflow automation, like all of the above. And I've done that with a group of people and very engaged stakeholders.
Yeah. And so a moment ago, you said what I think is the reason I wrote the book really is that this is something that we all do
Mhm.
every single day. And yet, from my experience, nobody talks about it. The basic thing is like in my world, data visualization, we say, okay, we're going to do this dashboard, we're going to build this thing, whatever it is. And we all acknowledge, yeah, we got to figure out what our audience needs from us. Okay, we pay lip service to it. And we may even talk a little bit about how we have to do that, but no one ever talks about how. How do
Right.
you have these conversations? And so, yeah, maybe you can share from your experience an example, an anecdote, either a great success of stakeholder whispering where you really uncovered some hidden need and turned into an amazing project, or
Hmm.
maybe a disastrous scenario where, man, stakeholder didn't know what the heck he wanted. We never figured it out and the project failed miserably. So whichever or
Yeah.
both you want to share
Yeah.
with us, I'd love to hear it.
Well, since you invited me here to speak about this, I've just really been contemplating the subject a lot and trying to think about how do I communicate how I've found success in these moments. And not everything is a success. Like, I'm not perfect. We're not 100%. We're pretty good though. I mean, we do a pretty good job. Um, but it comes back to I've got one story that was at the beginning of Think Data, and when Daniel and I were scrappy, two-man team, right, just trying to make it. And we were approached by a customer that was doing training with us, but this was post Katrina, where we had learned that if you don't have your stuff secure, you may not start up. And it really started the disaster recovery component of the industry, really. And we were in those days. So they brought to me these dirty smudge job cards. They were building big engines and keeping big engines repaired for like paper mills and whatnot. And they said we have thousands of these. We have tons of boxes. We have them sitting up on our mezzanine, just the floor, and they're above their shop floor. And they were like, we're afraid that if the building burns down, we're going to lose all of our history. And they brought us in and they showed us these boxes everywhere. I think I even have pictures of this somewhere. And then they took us down into the office and they showed us this filing cabinet that also had the job cards in it, also handwritten, dirty, smudged, like whatever odd shape. They weren't 8.5 by 11. They weren't a regular shaped card, and they were hard stock, right? And they're like, now these cards, we got to be careful with these because these are what we use to bid on the engines and all the repair work, right? And so I was like, what do you mean? They were like, well, somebody will call in, paper mill call in and say, hey, we need a bid on how do you fix this, whatever RPM size. I mean, these are huge motors, engines, whatever. And they were querying. I go into the file cabinet and looking by RPM and manufacturer, and I'm looking and going, you're doing this with paper? And in
Like
their
to look
time,
up how long it took to fix a similar machine in the past.
yeah. So they know how to bid it,
Okay. Yeah,
right? They
yeah,
know how to bid it, right? And so the importance of this is fastest bidder with the best price wins. Well, you know
yeah,
anything about bid work, you don't bid the right number, you're hurting yourself on the end. It's like a lot of data that goes into that. So I'm like, well, why don't we just scan the cards and pull all the data off of it? Like, we'll get 2 for 1 here.
yeah.
We'll back up your cards and we'll pull all the data from these cabinets, and then we'll build you a little database, and you can just go pull RPM, pull manufacturer, pull whatever you want to do. They looked at me like I had 18 eyes pop up out of my face. They're like, and then they came back. They were like, you can't do that. That's not possible. I said, oh, it is definitely possible.
Yeah,
And it's possible due to tools like machine learning. Like, these are not new tools. Like, people are newly pursuing it maybe, but like artificial intelligence, machine learning, these things have been around for a while. And a local company here, like, they scanned paper for the census. And so they've built these machines that could identify pieces of data on the paper. So I just took it to them and said, I need this, and this. And
yeah.
then I need you to produce a PDF that I can then pull up digitally. They're like, wow, that seems like a great idea. I was like, yeah, let's go, you know, but they didn't believe it was possible. So part of the whispering was, well, I'll show you that it's possible through a sample, right?
Yeah.
And I think about this as well, it was easy because it made sense. And so sometimes you talk to a stakeholder and you come with this practical suggestion and it just totally locks in and you're good and you have this award story like I just told. Like it's amazing. It was groundbreaking. We didn't know it. We
Yeah.
know it now. We didn't know it then. But they didn't believe in what we were capable of because it just wasn't part of their everyday life, right? They're building
Yeah.
engines.
Right.
So understanding the gap between what we know as technologists and what we're trying to bring to our stakeholders and understanding like we got to talk to them in ways that they can like practically get it. So I would say that's one thing about me is I'm a very practical, pragmatic person when it comes to this stuff. But the real key for me is that they brought me a problem that they thought was a problem, which is we don't want the building to burn down.
Right.
Can you help us get these cards scanned into something so that we have it? So that was the problem that I was sent to address.
Mm-hmm.
But because I care about my stakeholders, people I answer to, and the people they serve, the minute I saw the real problem, that they didn't even have any awareness of it. So I'd say the
Yeah.
key to stakeholder whispering for me has always been looking past the problem that's suggested, which is often a symptom of a bigger set of problems. And my brain
Mm-hmm.
just works that way. And then exposure on top of that, I think, has helped me build my ability to whisper, right? Seems funny because I've been so exposed to so many problems that are really just the symptoms and then
Yeah.
going in to fix them. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a great example, and it brings up a really good point. Yeah, so stakeholder whispering is how do you have these conversations to help figure out what the underlying need is? And
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah, the underlying need isn't even the need you think or that they think that they're sort of circling around. It's this other thing over here. And I like the way you phrased it, that it's the problem, the need they come with might be a symptom of a deeper problem, because that is very often the case for sure.
Yes. Yes. Also, when you were setting us up for this conversation, and you said it's not something that we often talk about, like how we whisper to stakeholders. And I would say, I think it is getting talked about a lot in the technical sales domain.
Mm,
And I would say, like working with my team and my technical sales team, like technical sales team are your first whisperers.
yeah,
And so if you're trying to up your game as an organization, right, and you're trying to build your team, like I think the key to that stakeholder whispering starts at the moment your team interfaces with the potential stakeholder. So
100%.
I definitely believe there's a whole lot of benefit for leaders to get into the conversation of stakeholder whispering because I think it might solve a lot of challenges people are maybe not thinking about. So I am glad you're talking about it outside of the sales nightmare,
Yeah.
which is also part of the reason why it's hard to whisper because
Yeah,
you're
that's
having to
true.
yell over the sales pitch.
Yeah, it's funny. I had never heard of the term sales engineer, 5, 10 years ago. I don't remember when I first came across it. I was like, that is a brilliant role because that's the person who bridges that gap between, okay, client has a need, there's a technical solution over here, and their job is to merge the two and have enough technical knowledge to really help explain it and
Yeah,
even start that implementation planning. But yeah, they need to do that in the first place. There's
yeah,
actually a really good book that I quote a couple times in my book called The Challenger Sale. And it's all about sales, and that their premise is exactly what I'm talking about too. It's the idea that when you're selling complicated stuff, the client doesn't know what they need because they don't understand the technology. It's exactly what you just described. And so they can't even envision what you're talking about. But your
Correct.
job is to sort of explain it to them and help them understand their needs in order to then sell it to them.
Well, yeah,
Um,
you're speaking straight to my heart, like right now,
yeah,
because we're having this challenge
yeah,
in our sales process on our own team, like where we're trying to figure out, we have we've laid such great groundwork, and you've been part of that as part of our curriculum advisory board, and we're pushing so hard. We're building our program, and yeah, I just lost it there for a second. I'll have to come back to what I was about to say. I got to thinking about our oh
yeah,
yeah. Okay, so I got to thinking about our program, and it's all of a sudden the immensity of what we can do. And so we've gone out and we've talked to several organizations, and everybody gets it. It's not hard, it's practical. You need to be training people data analytics, and if you're not, you're in trouble later, but whatever. But learning how to condense something down to a stakeholder so that they can execute. When you are having those conversations, we need to be able to clearly express like just enough information. Like they don't need to know how the sausage is made, right?
yeah,
But they need to have enough information to understand this would solve my problem. So again, it comes right back to what problem are we solving, and are we solving a symptom, or is it really a problem, and how many more problems are hidden in there? So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading your book and bringing it back to my team for us to continue, because we're refining those messages so that as we have those encounters with a stakeholder, we aren't just all of a sudden we're just throwing so much information at them that they can't make a
yeah,
decision.
for sure.
So maybe
Yeah,
I should write a book
person
on
knowledge.
stakeholder overwhelming information
Yeah.
correction or whatever.
Let me ask you one other question. These are fairly short conversations, so we'll leave it after this one, which is
Okay.
you mentioned earlier that your brain just works this way. So you
Mm,
go into a client or a prospect, they have a problem. You just automatically say, well, that's probably not the real problem. Maybe it's something else over here, and you discover it and you sort
mm,
of build on that.
yeah.
So maybe some people's brains don't work that way. At least they're not working that way today.
Right.
One little bit of advice, any little trick that you think can help people learn how to have a Robin Hunt brain that'll help them do that better.
Be careful what you wish for. That'd be my number one tip.
Yeah,
Um, I think you just have to step back and look at the world through a different lens. And I clearly look at the lens of seeing data in every place that I look. And I have a really hard time. Every problem I solve goes right back down to that basic lens. Like, where is the data? Where is it at? Now, listen, for the industry I'm in, it may be a little bit different for everybody else, but I would say the surface isn't where it is. And so if you don't go past the surface, you're not going to get there. And the thing about me is I go well past the surface. And I would say exposure has given me the confidence to push that edge. And so I would say, as much as you can expose yourself in the early stages of your career and the choices that you make, to expose yourself to problems being solved, and going past the surface. We got to get past the surface to really
yeah.
solve problems. Yeah.
So I think the first chapter in my book is called "Nothing is as it seems," because yeah, the surface, nothing is as it seems. And I have another chapter in there about useful paranoia. Assume everything is wrong. Assume that you're not seeing what you need to see, and dig into that. So yeah,
Yes.
I fully agree. I think that's great advice.
Yeah. And I haven't read your book yet. So good. We're kindred spirits on this. I
We're
like it.
we're well aligned, of course.
Yes.
Well,
Awesome.
Robin, I want to thank you very, very much for being here and sharing your experience and wisdom with whoever is listening, whether it's
Okay.
live or later on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Bill. Never a
Of
dull moment
course,
with you.
always. And for everybody else, just real quick, next week I will have Karen Klinger from Microsoft with us, and we'll have another conversation and we'll find out what other nuggets of wisdom we can come up with in that conversation. So until then, thank you very much. And Robin, thanks again.
See you again. Bye.